evening. You're welcome everyone to the maiden edition of The Seat. And tonight we'll be looking at Nigeria's security challenges and the voting process. We'll be having two panelists join us for this session. And we'll be expecting that our brilliant audience would also make their contributions to this session. Wow. I see our panelists are already in the house. I see Onigbenga in. I see Gloria Balason in. It would be good that we also enable them as speakers once we have questions come their way. I see other people in here. I see Shola Odeide. I see Maureen. So good evening everyone again. Kelechi Charlesomba is my name. You'll be seeing me here as Casey Charlesomba. I'm the founder of the Workplace Women, alongside other beautiful women who are co-founders. Permits me to introduce our guests tonight. I'll start with Benga. Benga is a thought leader. He's highly skilled in training, development, and deliver the here like a waterfall. He flows to nourish others, producing vegetation and cooling effects. That's so cool, Benga. He builds to create a generation committed to growth and intentional living. I'd like to add that he's a good friend of mine. And I'd also like to add that we have another panelist in the house, Gloria. I'm hoping I'm not murdering Gloria's name, Balasan. Wow. This fantastic woman is a lawyer. She's the principal partner of the House of Justice. I think that's as loud as it can be. Very lengthy profile, very lengthy achievements she has to her names. She may be able to share a couple of those on this platform as we go on. And so with that, I want to welcome everyone again to the seats, the good governance initiative of the Workplace Women. And tonight we'll be addressing Nigeria's security challenges as we look at the voting process. All right, please say something, say hi to everyone in the house. If possible, introduce yourself further so that we can take this on.
Yeah, I think you've done you've done such a wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Benga Isaac Oni. So, like I think Casey have done justice to the introduction, but I think one thing again that I work around in the security sector, so around capacity building for security agencies, and especially in Southern Africa and East Africa. But currently, I also do some work around working with peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers, around building their capacity in terms of engagement with communities. So that's what I do. Again, as a profession, yep.
Wow, thank you so much, Ben. Having heard what you've said around the work you've done beyond the shores of Nigeria, onto Africa, East Africa, I heard you say, most Nigerians are afraid, Most Nigerians are afraid, some are confused, but there are those who are totally ignorant of the security situation in the nation. So we have a category of people who are very afraid. We have another category of people who are confused about the matter. The question is, who are those people terrorizing the nation? Who are these people? We have the names, different names. We have bandits, we have Boko Haram, we have all sorts. I think there's another one, unknown gunmen. So there's a state of confusion in the minds of the people. Who are these people exactly? And then we have a last group, people who are totally oblivious of the fact that there are security issues in the nation. Can you speak to these three categories of people?
I think yes, their fear it's genuine and their fear is reasonable. Even I myself, maybe I'll put myself in that category of people that are afraid of the situation that is happening in the country, because some couple of years back it wasn't like this, but those were signs and signals that we're going to get to this place, but we all were playing ignorant at that time. So because I think a couple of years, especially Southwest Nigeria, if you look at 8, 7, 9 years ago, Southwest Nigeria never took, or even southern part of Nigeria never took security situation very seriously. When people talk about it, they say, oh, it's a northern issue and all of that. And so until we got to this point, so I think their fear is legit. They have every reason to be afraid, because if you have even the state apparatus saying that they cannot keep us, every day you listen to the news, you watch the TV, you read the newspaper, this it's just one story, one war story to the other, and everybody knows somebody that might have been kidnapped. Everybody knows somebody that is struggling through that gone through the ordeal of insecurity in the country. So people now, if you look at, I was trying to count the last time that I was in the country. I was looking around that we're beginning to have multiplied gated city. Because I remember when we were growing up, everybody on this call can remember way back then, it's hard for you to see houses that have fences. And most times I usually joke with people that when we're growing up, the places that have fences are the prison yard or schoolyard. And schoolyard is because they don't want kids to go out and play on the road and all of that. But now you have almost everywhere gated city are multiplying. And so it shows that the fear of people are genuine. For the confused one, I think again they have reasons to be confused, because the confusion is coming from the fact that we're spending a lot in our security budget, is increasing every day, but we're not seeing the result to it, or maybe because we're not pumping the money to the right channel. We'll talk about that down the line, because in terms of looking at the amount we're spending on security, but we don't have security. So they are confused. I think so a lot of them are confused, asking what's going on, who is this really? Sometimes we say, oh, don't call them terrorists, don't call them this, now unknown gunmen. But they are known because people, they have guns, so they are not just, they didn't fall from heaven or from Jupiter into Nigeria, so somebody know them somewhere. So technically, I think that's the fear of people saying unknown gunmen. But in terms of the ignorant, for me, I think if you look at the meaning of the word ignorant means lacking knowledge, or someone that is unaware or uneducated or unsophisticated. So but I don't think we should say those people, I don't say they're ignorant. I think they're playing dumb, because maybe it's benefiting them or the people that are in power. They're just playing politics. I don't think they're ignorant of the fact, because almost everybody in Nigeria, everybody this time around knows somebody that has been kidnapped somewhere, or knows somebody that's gone through one pain or the other. Can tell the war. You can see the signs. There's people leaving the country, young people with talent but running away. People that are doing it through the legit way. People that are going through the Sahara Desert. We're hearing the stories everywhere. Even with the advent of social media, people can see those news circulating everywhere. So anybody that's playing ignorant, I think they are just they're just being untrue to themselves and to their own conscience, and they lack value, because the truth is that maybe they are benefiting from these insecurity issues. They are benefiting from one of these challenges, security challenges that we're having, or one way or the other, they just pretend to themselves that maybe if I pretend enough, then the security challenges will go away. So I think that's what I can say in terms of the three category. But I think majority of us are in that part of being afraid, which is legit. But I think there's also hope, because sometimes if we stay in the place of fear, then we'll all be paralyzed. We'll not be able to make moves to correct the situation. So I think that's where we are. So for me, I lean more to the issue of talking about people that are afraid and confused. I think that's okay. But people playing ignorant at this time in Nigeria, well, I think their own situation is, I don't know. I don't know what to fix. I don't know what to talk about them, because they won't say they lack knowledge or awareness. I just think they're just being try to just play stupid, in the sense that they're benefiting one way or the other from the situation, or they're just ignorant to the highest to the highest level, and they're just pretending. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Binga. I think what you have done is that you even added an extra category. So we have the category of people who are afraid. We have the ones who are confused. We have the ones who are ignorant, and the ones who seem not to be aware. Because I see that you did a good job of breaking that down. Before I move on to the next question for you, I think you could tell us a little bit about your work around, because Oftentimes it's good you know what's happening in other places. Is this problem a peculiar Nigerian problem? If that's English is correct, permits me tonight. Is it just us? Nigeria sits as the giant of Africa. It's no longer news that we're a country of about 200 million plus people. If we take an average if we take an average country in the African continent, you have people sitting around 40 million plus, 50 million plus, and even as low as 500,000. There are countries like the Cape Verde has about 500 people, 500,000 people as their citizens. So is this something you have experienced with having lived here, and then having the experience of working outside the shores of the country? You may just want to share a bit.
Yeah, so I think it's dicey. The question is that I would have said no, it's not peculiar to us. I would also said yes, but I would say yes and so the yes and is that security challenges is coming global. We have a lot of global issues around security because of maybe the rising effect of poverty globally, and there's also the rising effect of young people no longer trusting the system. But we also have the issue of that people no longer even trust security apparatus to keep them, which is like the police issues that we have globally. Like even in the US, where people having struggles with the police, globally people do no longer trust the police as an institution. But I think for Nigeria, it's a complex issue because we already had issues with police, like we can see with the NSAS that we had in 2020, in the sense that we have a governance system that is not sensitive to this thing. When you play politics with everything, it becomes worse. And so, in the sense that there's the issue of security apparatus. I know before, even the ones that we trusted before, the military, that we hold them in high esteem. I remember a couple of years ago, we don't even see the military on the street anyhow. When you see them, you respect them because they're disciplined. They have all of this. And some of them are still disciplined, but now, and so I think the corruption level has also moved into their own system, and now so we have a very corrupt system, which is also a replication of the country. And that's why I said it's complicated in the sense that we have a country that we run without value, because we're supposed to be the ones to change them. But now because we have an institution that is corrupt, so we have a breakdown of every layer of governance. We're struggling with value, we're struggling with the country, there's no ethics, there's no value, then we also have corruption. And I think corruption is the biggest of all, because corruption has fitted into almost everything we do. Even you see that those things are broken. So Nigeria is a complex situation. So I don't think it's the same like everywhere. Other places, there are people in school doing other things, but we have a country that almost everything is broken. It's very complicated.
Wow, Benga. Speaking about complexity, on the streets, if you ask me, there's a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of hopelessness expressed on the faces of the average Nigerian. There's a lot of, what's the word? It's as though a lot of people have even tuned off. So you see a lot of people joking more than usual. You see a lot of skits more than usual. It's as though we've turned the entire nation into a circus filled with clowns, as though it's what's the word? An antidote to our misery. So, speaking to complexity of this situation, are you saying that there is no way out of this quagmire, Binga? I'm hoping that Gloria will find. I'm hoping that Gloria would be able to log on soon. So we can also take her. Yes, as someone who is, also resident in a highly volatile area.
Yes. There's a lot of work that I think you should have really spoken about, because in terms of the issue she's doing in Southern Kaduna and all of those places. But I think all hope is not lost. There's still hope. Yeah, so because we can't give up on the country, because if we give up at this time, it becomes complex. But I think we as a people, we need to be serious. Like you say, we joke on everything. So, and the government know. And I know when you run, when the major, I don't want to say the elites, because all of us on this call, we are elite. Elite just mean people that, you have some level of, you are all educated people, you have some form of influence in your own space. So I don't want to say the elite alone, but people that have power, access to power, I think they understand that we are not serious people, and they do that because they know that if we are serious, then they cannot continue to do what they do because we joke on everything. Even the supposedly media people, the entertainers that are supposed to be also instrument talk about it because they also want to make money. It comes back to the issue of value that we're talking about because they make all of these kits to put online to make money, and so they don't care. So in just building this wealth, because we've grown a society that everybody wants to be rich by all means, because we define rich by the number of cars you have and the number of houses you have, and so everybody do anything, and so we have created a consciousness of people that, and that's where it comes to that part of the ignorance that you're talking about, all the fourth layers of people that they're not even really aware. Because sometimes if you were joke on about a matter, then it becomes not so serious for you because it does become normal, and which is the aim. I think the aim of people that have access to power to continue to keep us in that space. You see, most times a campaign has started or will start very soon, and you see them, they keep bringing entertainers, musicians, bring people to make skit, and people laugh, and in the process of laughing, they're not even thinking to begin to ask those critical questions that will I continue like this? Concentrated on saying keeping the power at the center, and people never thought of the Senate. You saw a lot of young influential people in Nigeria that all pick ticket that they wanted to become president. I said, no, we don't need you to become president, because if we're really running a federal system, then the president should not be as powerful as we have made the president to be. So I think we need to begin to think about House of Assembly, think of even those lower positions that we're not talking about now. That is where we really need to focus on.
I guess, Benga, it's, for the politics, it's for us to take it, one step at a time. So good to have you, Gloria. I'm excited. The technical issues couldn't hold you back, Gloria. I don't know whether you want to respond to the first question I had asked about Nigerians being in a comatose state. Some are afraid, some are confused, some are ignorant. I don't know whether you want to respond to that. But the main question I would have loved to ask you first is the issue of data. I've sat within certain people who believe that those in the diaspora who believe that certain groups of people blow these things out of proportion. As someone who lives in the north, in the northern part of Nigeria, as someone who is a lawyer of repute, do we have accurate data showing the level of insecurity in Nigeria? Or is this just some propaganda to frustrate the efforts of the current government? Do we have data to back this up? And Benga had raised certain issues around the voting process and insecurity. He also said something about value and ethics that I would have loved to touch on. But Gloria, we really need to hear from you. Do we have accurate data showing the level of insecurity in Nigeria, or is this a mere propaganda, as some would assert? Gloria, it's your turn now. I see her speaker showing connected.
Yes, she's still coming. Yeah.
Connectivity is another huge, yes, connectivity is another huge challenge. And so when you talk about a country like ours that should be a forward-thinking nation on all ends, on all fronts, it looks as though some of those experiences are within, certain areas. It looks as though when we speak to the strength of Nigeria, we're speaking to just Lagos, Abuja, and maybe carelessly Port Harcourt. I wouldn't even add Port Harcourt to that list, because based on recent travels, I'm wondering when some of those cities degenerated that bad. The issue of suits in Port Harcourt for a while now has been a major source of concern, but not to leave where we are. I don't know if Gloria.
As we're waiting for Gloria, so
yes,
I can speak a little bit to the question you raised in terms of data.
Yes, please.
The truth is that we are under-reporting. I can see a lot of things online because some has some security implication that they don't have the clearance to talk about. But the truth is that we are under-reporting as a country because first we're not a country that deals with data. And so when people think, people in diaspora, most times they think If you come to Nigeria, you just come down from the airport in Lagos, come from or the airport in Abuja. Nobody needs to tell you. You can feel it that there's something that is not right with the country. You can sense it in the air. I don't know how just to put it. You can just feel it that the country is becoming a ghost of itself. So I had the privilege of being in the country in April, and I was in Abuja. That was not the Abuja that I know. You could see that it's also becoming like a ghost town. And so you can always see all of these things. So the question is that we are underreported. There are a lot of things, as we're speaking right now, there are many things even happening in that country that will go unreported. Because sometimes people have given up. People no longer want to do this. You hear questions of people that have been kidnapped almost every day that they don't want to go to the police again. So I can give you, so a colleague of ours was kidnapped sometimes last year. And so the security people told the wife that the wife should go and negotiate with the kidnappers and tell them that, oh, she's a new married person, and negotiate the price. Then when they were asking for 20 million, she should price from 100. And so at that point, we all gave up. Because the question was that if the people that were supposed to help said, go and negotiate until I cannot disclose the amount that those guys took away. And so those are people that I know, but there are people, as we're speaking now, I was talking to a colleague, I was in Kigali last week, and a colleague of mine that's now in the UK, a former place of work, they called that some of their staff in Yobe, they live in Yobe, they're Yobe resident, but they're going to work somewhere, they were kidnapped. And the kidnappers were asking for 50 million. And that was not reported anywhere because the question is, if you report, who will bring them out? So there are a lot of people who are kidnapped. I can give you think over and over and over, but those does not even go into the official data of the crime. What of the little petty crimes, people breaking, people losing their things? Do you want to talk about even the online fraudsters and all of that? So the question is, we are even underreporting. So I think those people should just have some chi and understand that first, we're a country that doesn't even keep data. And so sometimes even these projections we're doing in some situation, it might be increased. And now that maybe when during politics, but now we should leave politics aside. Nigeria has gone beyond the issue of politics. It is real. There are things happening in that country that are not documented. There are things happening in that country that we don't know about, and which is that we really need help. And that's the truth of the matter. We need help to begin to capture those. Because for example, even the police station do not have centralized data. You have to see right in papers and all of that. So who keeps those data? Who collates all of the data that are recorded in each of the police stations across the country? And so that's a big question we need to ask. I wish Gloria can join.
She will join. She will join. Thank you. Thank you for, from your end, doing justice to that question. I'll move on. I'm hoping that when Gloria joins, she would also speak on some of these areas that we had already touched, giving her own perspective to the issues. I see no hands up yet. Welcome everyone to the seat. The seat is a good governance initiative aimed at preferring solutions to the ills, that that's the ills that's what's the word now? The malady, the sickness that plagues us as a people and as a nation. And so for us on this platform, it's about preferring solutions. And so you can request, if you have a contribution to make, you can request if you have a question to ask any of us, any of the panelists, and then we will take it from there.
Yeah,
I think Gloria is here now.
yeah. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Gloria. Can you say something?
I don't know if you hear me, but
great.
I was saying earlier on that in terms of data, over 6,000 Nigerians have been killed just in 2022, the first 7 months, and there's a projection for 9,000 people to be killed. Now that's a grim projection. And like I said earlier on, I don't know if I was heard or not because I keep flinging in and out of network. We should be concerned about every Nigerian life that we lose. People are afraid, people are confused, but I don't think there's anyone who doesn't have a sense of the danger we're in. And this is what we need to assess. Prior to the present administration, the issue of Boko Haram, the insurgents, it was just an issue for the Northeast. Today we're speaking about the insurgents in the North, South, East, and West. There is not a single place that has been excluded. Curiously, for those of us who follow the news, we realized that at the time that the former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Melafia, was highlighting and giving us projections of the next set of places to be attacked, the government came against him. And they said he was trying to incite people to commit crime. But when we go back to that interview, we see that there was clarity in what he was saying, and his projections are coming true. What this says is that the Nigerian state is a mass crime site. The inability of the government to understand the danger of the people or to respond to it is really troubling. For many countries, what they sit is a situation where the citizens will align with the government to resolve insecurity. For us in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. We're looking for the government to accept to help us solve insecurity. And this in itself portends a lot of danger. It means that the Nigerian state has lost credibility. Section 14, which we normally cite, Section 14 of the Constitution says that security and the welfare of people is the primary purpose of government. But you see, if we put it in context, what it means is that the prerequisite
Gloria is gone again. She had just quoted a segment of the Constitution, a section of the Constitution, and now she's off. Well, we try to get her back, and I think that every time when she does this, she goes on to speak, thinking we're also hearing her based on the comments, a few comments she made when she started off a few minutes ago. So apparently she's still speaking on, hoping that we're hearing her. And there's a lot of solid points she's making to corroborate what Benga has been saying to us a while. Benga, you may want to just speak to the other question that I have. If we go by the way the insecurity issue is at the moment, I mean, I was in the past week, I saw myself in the southeast part of Nigeria. Right now, while Gloria was speaking, she was talking about before now this being a problem of the northeast, and today we see it in the northwest, we see it also in the southern part, and I dare to say to you that it's also encroaching deeply into the west. Aside Lagos, you have other parts of the western states plagued daily by bandits, by unknown gunmen, by herdsmen. In fact, the closest we had was on the bridge that adjoins Lagos with the states towards the Otodubega area sometime last month. It was a very scary one, that this is really coming too close for comfort, especially for those of us who live in the very urban area. So the question would be, with all of this going on, with all of the excitement that we see speaking to the elections in the coming year, with all of this, how do we guarantee, based on the security challenges, how do we guarantee that people will not be disenfranchised? How do we guarantee that people can boldly come out from their houses to say they want to be involved in the voting process? How do we guarantee that there won't be parts of the country where the elections will not even hold due to insecurity issues? How do we guarantee that people won't have guns put to their heads so they don't get to vote? How do we guarantee all of this as the tempo increases? I mean, today is the 1st of September. The campaigns will kick off anytime soon in the month that we've just entered. How do we guarantee the safety of the average Nigerian to go boldly to the polling booth to cast their votes? Benga, you,
Yeah. So I think the last
you're
thing
on.
Gloria, yeah, what Gloria was saying before she went off and she was going to be back shortly is we turn the process of security the other way around. And so the question is that we are expecting the government to keep us safe, but we're supposed to be the one holding the government accountable to keep us safe. And so, having said that, it means that we we should not be expecting the government to guarantee us to be able to come out to vote. I think with the situation that happened in Edo, Ekiti, and one more other state that just had the election, it shows us that yes, we can have election when the people come out en masse, when we have one voice. But when there are fewer people, because the question is that for this to happen, for the forces of oppression to happen, it just selects a few. But when there's a critical mass, when people come out en masse to vote, then they cannot put gun on everybody's head. And so the question is that, what is fun is that you can see even the next election, I wanted to share this and Gloria myself to it. You might be surprised that election will even be much more peaceful in the north than in the south. So we should even be concerned about the southern part of Nigeria than worried about the north in terms of election. Because
Benga, is that from Intel? Is that from international Intel?
no, I can't speak to that. Can't see that cause me towards that. But the question is it's based on data and projection. So, for example, 2015, 2019 election, even in the heart of when Boko Haram was tracking in Maiduguri, there was peaceful and they had election. There was even more turnout of election in Maiduguri in Borno State than even some other part of Nigeria because they understand. There's one thing that the northern people have done for themselves. They understand the power and the importance of voting, of election. Either it counts or doesn't count. They have been built, their psyche has been built that you need to always participate in an election to choose the leader that will influence both your religious and non-religious life. And so they don't joke with election. But the trouble is that with our own people on Twitter, that is where we argue. People in the South, young people in the South stay on Twitter. Even most of these influencers will make noise on the morning of election. People will be playing football. And it will be remaining our old aged parents that will be at the polling vote. And so our aged parents, if anything is happening, who is going to protect them? But if this current momentum, even in the private now, the politicians are already afraid. If you sit with them, if you know people that are in government, even the leading political party, they are scared with the level of momentum they are saying. So forget about all of the noise they're making on social media to distract young people. If we can keep this momentum, telling them like all this million march that one of the people are doing for one of their candidates everywhere, moving city to city, it's already causing some earthquake. And you can see a lot of political alignment happening. People running to London, going to different countries to meet, to try to form alliance because they are afraid. Because they know that if the same force of young people that were able to come out in during the NSAS and all of this other movement can align. Because one of the biggest down part of NSAS was that it was only the elite young people that were trying to come and they didn't integrate the uneducated and some of the young guys on the street. If we can join the force of the guys on the street, the uneducated, the people, the school dropouts, and join them with the educated and all of that, and come together as a critical force. We don't all have to vote for one candidate, but when we come and say, oh, this is what we want transparency, we're tired, we want a country that we no longer go to different embassies, they just throw our passport away, or people have to go through the Sahara Desert to go there, then it will hold. So what I'm saying is that election is going to happen, but we need to come out en masse, especially in southern part of Nigeria. And because that is where, because the South is agitating for power to come back. And the problem is that where we might be using thugs or all of these people to terrorize people might even be in the South. But how can we get against that? We need to come out in numbers. Numbers is powerful. When there's a lot of people, sometimes even the South themselves, they are scared.
Wow, Benga, you have raised a very critical issue and I think, a very well assessed point of view, speaking to the NSAS, the category of people or the class of people that were involved in that protest, in that entire exercise. However, there is a challenge, and I'd like for you to speak to that challenge. The challenge of having people from the different spheres of life, stand out with one voice as a critical mass, like you have stated. I think that's where the challenge is. In the past times, what we have seen is that the literacy levels of the populace, the literacy level of the people, have been a tool have been a tool in the hands of those who have manipulated the well-being of this country. And so it's been difficult to get people who are not so enlightened in their minds, to understand this. Next week we're going to be speaking to vote trading, and you would observe by the time we begin that conversation that some of the data we'll be sharing would be more to those who are probably in the rural areas, in the suburban areas, who really do not understand the nitty-gritty of these issues. All they know to do is to exclaim, all they know to do is to complain. You and I may be able to say, we may be able to judge that, this was what the economy was looking at like at this time, and this is what we see it has become. They may not be able to point to those indices.
It has changed, Casey. Things has changed.
Kindly share, please.
The people you should be worried about now is people like us. Come to Twitter, see a lot of celebrity that is supporting some kind of candidate. There's some people that I know. For me, I'm so disappointed in them when I go to Twitter or Instagram and I see they're putting a candidate that is not feeling fine, that does not. I begin to ask myself, why do you want to go down this? The kind of argument they give online. The truth of the matter is that in the rural area, the suffering, the bag of rice, now because of insecurity, they cannot farm. So those are points. We need to bring this campaign and this education, civic education, we need to make it practical. Ask them, 10 years ago, can you freely go to your farm? And they will say, yes, I can freely go to my farm. But now, can you go? No, you cannot go because you're afraid of herdsmen. You're afraid of unknown government to come and attack you. So we need to make it practical to them because the suffering in Nigeria has gone beyond the urban center. It has gone even to the most remote part of Nigeria. Places that you do not know because those herdsmen move their cattle and cow through those interland, and now they're disturbing the farmers in those areas. So those farmers know the reality. What we just need to let them know is that do they want to go back to their farm? Because go to places like Benue, you go to places like Benue. For example, I grew up in Macaulay, and with the kind of news and everything I'm hearing from that place is nice that it's a ghost town of itself because people can no longer farm, people can no longer do things. You go to the east, you go to even the west that you're talking about. Look at what is happening in southwest Nigeria, all of the rural areas. And I was speaking with my mom of recent. She went to greet my grandma in the village in Ekiti State there. And you can see that a lot of them are even afraid of going to the farm. Before you wake up in the morning, I remember in those days when we go to greet my grandma, we wake up 5, 6, we go to the farm. But now people wait until 10 a.m., 11 a.m. to go to the farm because they're scared that either they were attacked by the herdsmen or unknown government or things. So this suffering has gone beyond the city. It has gone to the rural area. So we need to go, when we're doing civic education campaign, we need to ask them this question. Ask them, the children in the city that was sending them money every month, and they're sending them money again, and say no, because things are difficult. And so they need to know that when somebody gives them a bag of rice or give them matches, it means that until the next 8 years, even the 200 that the children can send to them, they will no longer get it. So the reality is that the pain of bad governance is felt at all levels. So it's before they will say, oh, they don't know. But the people I'm afraid of are the people, the young elites that want to benefit from somebody that might not be able to govern well so they can get position as special advisor, specialists that they want even campaigning. Those are the people I'm even worried about, not even the rural.
Wow. I think you have flipped this entire narrative, while showing clearly that we need to take the sensitization down to those in the rural areas. You've also stated that they are more conscious and aware of the situation than we think they do. It's a serious flip of the narrative that you've just done, Binga. And I look forward to the other sessions we'll be having come every Thursday to see how all of these align or how all of these speak to each other. So, what is the role? I know you've hinted on this, but I don't think you've nailed it. What is the role of the people of Nigeria to abate the situation? You've talked about a critical mass coming out, but I think NSAS had a critical mass. I know you had said they were a particular class of people, but I don't think that was the I don't think that was the negative side of that protest. I don't think it's the class of people. If was it a critical mass? Yes. Were they organized? I think so. Were their demands clear? I think so. Were they harmful in any way? I do not think. Did they take security measures? Yes, to the very heartbreaking point of people carrying the flag, just to show their patriotism to the nation, and their commitment to a great nation, the nation of their birth, the nation where they belong to, the nation that they believe in. And even with that, we saw a blood-stained flag. Not a blood-stained flag, but some blood-stained flags. And I don't know whether the trauma of that experience, I don't know if anyone, any mother, any father, any uncle, any brother who experienced that whole episode, would have the effrontery, the audacity to say, oh, I want us to, come out en masse and, like the Yorubas will say, Shaya Bangba on this matter. So what is the role of the people? I know you hinted to say that it should be a critical mass of people, but are there roles that even those who necessarily do not, stand out, who necessarily do not, stick out their necks, are there roles that the citizenry can perform, that can help, in abating this insecurity issue, especially as we begin to plan to go to the polls?
Yeah, so I think one of the roles that we can play is what you're doing now, Casey, you and the workplace. This sensitization, this conversation. People say, oh, we talk a lot, but the truth of the matter is that conversation is important. And the second part of it is, like, I see Gloria is back. I'll quickly summarize my point so that she can chip in into this conversation. So I think one is that people like you and like myself, what we're doing, we need to continue that. But I think each citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria need to really ask themselves, what kind of country do we want? And it begins with the value we have. How transparent do we want? Because the truth of the matter is that so a couple of years ago, I wrote an article, and I've done a lot of civic work and all of that. So I wrote a couple of articles that was talking about that when corrupt people they are picking themselves, especially if they are tribal people. If a Yoruba man is arrested, and you see that a lot of Yoruba people will come behind him and say, especially if it's from my village, will say, oh, it's my brother, it's politics, government is arresting him, he's not a corrupt person. We try to defend. So the ethnic-based politics will not help us. So clan-based politics will not help us. We need to distance from that, because we only even religious-based politics, hey, it's a Christian, it's a Muslim. I know the other time, there was a time when even Goodluck was in power, and there was a lot of things happening to him. You see a lot of Christians just gang up and try to support him because he's a Christian, and that's what is also happening with the current sitting president, that you see a lot of mass critical people both in the north and in the south that believe to that faith. Apologies to whoever subscribed to the Muslim faith, but a lot of people do not come out to speak out. I have a lot of friends that I don't communicate with at the moment, because when a lot of things happening in the country, they don't speak out against the president because he worship the same kind of religion with them, which I feel is very bad. We need to do away from that. We need to go beyond. Because when you go to the market, the malam there will not ask you what religion are you, what tribe are you, before they sell anything for you. If you want to pay school fees, the school will not say, oh, because you are Yoruba, let's give you a discount. You have to pay the same school fees. You are sick in the hospital, the drug will not say, oh, what tribe are you, before it goes into your system. So we need to begin to have that sense of knowing that we are all in this boat. We all need to take responsibility for our country. But like the other part you're talking about, I don't want to speak bad of the NSAS movement. But there's a lot of things that we can talk about, maybe in private and other things that made that movement go wrong. But one of them is what I was telling you, was that the people that the politicians used to first start the breaking down of the process were the people we neglected in the movement. And then with the second things we say, oh, it was a leaderless group. The truth of the matter is that there's no group all over the world that doesn't have leadership. And that was one of the biggest for this. Oh, we don't have leaders. We're just coming together. We are moving. Yes, a movement can start with people just coming together and working together. But at some point, you need to really have structure and have the right leaders, not just the people that are celebrities or the people that have one way or the influence, that they will think twice and say, if I do this thing, maybe they will destroy my record labels and all of that, and they pull out. So there's a lot of things that we cannot speak on air about the NSAS movement, about what made it fail or what not make it succeed. And so again, like what you say is that with the killings and everything that happened, and people are still denying that it never happened, I know parents might not be willing to come out again to the board. We need to allow the blood of the innocent and the number of statistics that Baris was talking about. People that have been killed in southern Kaduna, in the north, people that have been kidnapped every day, people that are even dying of road accidents. We should not even think of bandit alone. Because of bad governance, we have bad roads, people are dying. Poor hospitals. Every day we keep hearing different news. I've been away from Facebook for a long time. I just came online yesterday. I saw that one of my friends lost the wife since April, and I didn't know. Through a cesarean section that should be one of the most successful operations that should be done anywhere all over the world. But we don't have good hospitals. People are dying and doing all of those things in Abuja. So you see, it's painful that we are talking about security. We should not only think about security in terms of the harms of, but we should think of the even human security. Hospitals are poor, bad road. People can no longer travel by road. People can no longer, I have had my own near misses of being kidnapped with my mom and my sister and my dad in 2016. We're just lucky. The four of us did not kidnap. So I've seen the experience. So when I'm talking online, I understand between we're just traveling, coming back to in this Kogi, all of that. But for me, to travel by road in Nigeria is that you want to traumatize me. Going to Ibadan to Lagos, and that's the highest road trip I can, for now, maybe until the near future, that I can do in Nigeria. Outside of that one, just leave me out. I won't follow you anywhere beyond those space. And so those are things that people have saying that we need to allow those things change us. Look at ASU. Oh my God, a strike. Children are at home. That one every day I just think about it. What will happen to their mates are going and they are making progress. So by just being born as Nigerian, we are reducing the life of these kids by 5 years. Their productivity and their success, because now because of 4 years they graduate at 8 years. Wow. It means that their progress of life has been reduced. So if we do a research and draw the graph, it will be pathetic of the cost of being in Nigeria. The cost of being in Nigeria is heavy on the citizens. So we need to really know that and wake up and say, no, we must come out to do so. Like what you say, citizen, we need to change our value. How do I see one another? How do you treat your neighbor? How do you see your Yoruba? How do I see my Igbo neighbor? How do my Igbo neighbor see me? How do I see my Hausa neighbors? How do I begin to see people? Even how do I take work in terms of even ethics of work? Those that have job, how do you handle? You go online every day. We hear entrepreneurs how their businesses is going down because the people that work with them, the young people that work with them, they are not serious. They just do the work anyhow. They're just so pathetic stories you hear every day. And so change starts from that place. Because if those people do not have the right mindset, they don't care about who rules them. They don't care about who is the president, who is the House of Assembly member, because you can destroy somebody else's business, but it all affects all of us. And so we need to change our mindset. Then we need to also start from the point of educating one another and say that no, it might not catch up with us now. No, people are becoming old in the abroad that they have gone to. They also want to come back, but if they...
Wow. It's been a very interesting time with you, Benga. Gloria, got her speaker rights a few minutes ago. I think network again has robbed her of it. That's, these panelists tonight are people who, this is where they play. This is where they play. Gloria has been at the forefront, especially from a legal point of view, concerning the insecurity challenges we have in the country. Gloria, if you can unmute yourself, even if I'm speaking, just go ahead and speak so that you can address some of the parts that you really would want to, but you haven't been able to. And then if anyone has a question, if anyone has a contribution, please feel free to raise it. Please feel free. Like I had said at the beginning, this is the seat. It's a good governance initiative by the workplace women. We hope to run a 15-week series every Thursday at 7 p.m. We'll take very salient issues, very important issues that have plagued us as a people, and we will address them, preferring solutions. So for us, it's primarily about preferring solutions to those issues. And so if you listen critically to some of the questions I've been asking Benga, and Benga has done justice, he's been able to highlight, while also preferring solutions, he's been able to highlight some of the things we have haven't done right, and how he thinks that if we're able to fix those, we would also be able to fix the security issue in Nigeria. And I think while Gloria was speaking, she was trying to come from the point of view of what the government should do and what the constitution permits to do. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to hear her view on that.
Yes. So I think one of the things we can also do for ourselves as citizens, that the question is that how many of us on this call even understand the Constitution or even have a copy of it? So one of the things we can do for ourselves is that maybe some couple of years ago I was thinking of that project. Maybe anybody on this call can pick it up and do it. So for example, now, like in the United States that I'm a little bit familiar with, that they have small pocket copy of the Constitution who just talks about the 13th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment, so just a key summary of it. We can do that for ourselves as a country. Like, let's citizens just even understand the basic. But when they say subsection 4, subsection 3, subsection this, what do we know that it means? We need to start that information. And like for me, I'm not saying Nigeria problem even solved in 2023. I'm already thinking of the next generation. Sometimes I usually joke with my friends that any of us that we are above 30 years or 25 years, we should just, our matter is in the hand of God now. We should just be managing the life and be going. But the people that are under 30, we need to invest in them. We need to help them understand the process. And so in our schools, in those private schools, all of that, what are we doing? Some kids knows about 13th Amendment. Like the truth of the matter is that in the early days, I know more about the American Constitution, even more than the Nigerian Constitution. I can tell you what each amendment means. When they're analyzing American Constitution, I know almost each of the part, because that is the movies we watch, the books we read, and that's when I have different version of the American Constitution. But it took me a long time before I had access to the Nigerian Constitution, just to try to, even at then, I've not really grabbed it enough. But what we can do for ourselves, we can do this project. Even maybe one of these, they do project on the Constitution. Yeah. Everybody, because one of the ways you see that it's not that America is like a perfect country. It's still like it can become a rogue nation, but it's not that everybody knows a bit of the Constitution. So you can't kick them left and right. They know. There's also that's what is called citizen arrest. So in the situation where somebody is even behaving what is bad, somebody, a citizen of America, can arrest you on behalf of the police. Until the police comes, there's a part of the Constitution that empowers them to do citizen arrest. So to understand that part, that what part of our Constitution gives us this arrest to begin to live modern life. And so that's there are a lot of provision within the Constitution, but they don't really want us to know about it. So the only time we hear about the Constitution is that maybe there's election tribunal, and that's the time people listen to it. We don't know the Constitution. So one of the ways we can change the system is that we need to know our right. And the people say right does not work. Yes, but for many times that once we have a lot of people that knows their right begins to work. Because now the right doesn't work because we don't even know what right we're even fighting for. And so we need to begin to create, and sometimes by social science, the social scientists on this call can attest to that. For real change to happen, for a critical mindset shift to happen, it takes between, sorry if I call this that, some people will say, maybe it's not going to happen in your lifetime, but it can happen. It takes between 15 to 25 years for a generation to really change their thought process. And the question is that we've been so in it. So if we really want to see Nigeria to change, and that's why people think, Peter Obi, Atiku, or any of these candidates can really change Nigeria in 8 years. No. Even the mess that Nigeria is now, they can start the process. But the mindset shift needs to become an educational thing. In the institution, even a lot of graduates now, the highest thing they can do is to write their names. They can do so. It's becoming so poor that here and now they're reducing JAM cutoff point. That is part of the problem. It's appalling. Or 120 to get admission and become a doctor that will treat you tomorrow and all of that, because people no longer put their mind to book. Everybody just want to watch series and all of that, and so it's a total change. We need a total change. We need to be familiar with the country. How many people know what happened? There's a documentary on Netflix about Nigeria. I was expecting that documentary to trend for many years. It just only trend for 1 or 2 years. Then people went to different movies. The country as just a hobby to know what is going on. But that documentary, half people did not want to really understand how the British put Nigeria together, how Nigeria was even existing, the East was existing as a very organized place, the West was existing as a very organized place before the system. When we remember where we are coming from, that we were not just people that didn't know what we were doing before the British came. Our people knew, our forefathers knew what they were doing, both in the East, in the West, in the South, or in the North. But it was like a forced marriage. But now we have this marriage. How do we continue with it? So even if we want to break the marriage, We need to know why. And that's why I say when people are saying, oh, secession, you see even some young people saying, no, let's just stay one Nigeria. Yes, but if you must stay one Nigeria, you need to know the basis of your marriage. You need to know the basis of where you come to. And that's why you need to check history. We need to begin to study history again. We need to really know things that we're running away, conversations that we don't want to have about the Biafra wall of this. We need to have this conversation. And that's how we can heal. And that's how we can have a good country if we heal and we also understand our constitution.
Wow, absolutely. I mean, a lot of solutions you've preferred here, Gbenga. If I want to start from the last, have open conversations that would help us heal rather than sweep things under the carpet. And I think another deep thing that will be involved in that process is some restitution to go alongside. Because at every point in time where there's any form of injustice, I believe it also gives birth to insecurity. You know, when people are agitated, when people are bitter, when people are not happy, you begin to see all of the kinds of things that we have seen in the recent past. I hear you speak to social re-engineering. I hear you speak to a decade and a half to 2 decades of reorienting the people. I hear you speak to us being conscious, being aware of the constitution, as it were. I hear you speak to, you know, us being a bit more assertive around what governance is and what it should be. I hear you also say that it's something that we can pick up. So if this is a very voluminous document, you know, people can take that up, and I want to believe that somebody is going to leave here tonight with that project. Put it in bits and pieces, if possible. You know, just take each section, make it into what may look like quotes or phrases, and that way, you know, something that you think is very important and is not at the fore, is not something people really know about. You know, you will have it in tidbits, we have it in pocket forms. I also hear you say that it can form the basis of our documentaries, our movies. I mean, every young person who sees an American movie or a Western movie automatically just loves the nation. They have a way of portraying patriotism. They have a way of showing that, you know, they have it all together. They have a way of showing those things. They have a way of highlighting also what the Constitution, you know, permits for the people. So I also hear you say that can be a solution when the people are aware. That can be a solution to solving our security challenges. I think this will be a good place for us to start rounding off. I do not see Gloria back yet. Disappointedly, she wasn't able to lend her voice tonight to this very critical matter.
I'm advocating that bring Gloria back, and I see that Timmy is on the lineup. So one of these days, talk that will be a good podcast to talk about policy. But there's something you said. I want to throw it into the air. I don't know which somebody who becomes the next president, somebody might take this idea and give to them. But in terms of restitution, I always say this and joke people that if the day I become the president of Nigeria or I have power and influence, we need to have a day of restitution to talk about the civil war. We might not agree about it, but like you said, that is one of the plagues that is holding back this country. We need to have.
I don't know who becomes the president or the leader. We can have the opportunity to have a day of restitution in terms of what happened during the Civil War, irrespective of who we think started the war or to blame. But it's important that every Nigerian, just if you have an Igbo neighbor or whatever you have, just turn to them, say you're sorry, just buy flowers, buy anything, a gift, and everybody apologize to each other. It could also be in every region of the nation where there have been issues like this, especially it could be Southern Kaduna, that all Kaduna people just turn to Southern Kaduna indigenous and just tell them, I'm sorry for what has happened to you, and just apologize, and we heal each other, because we might think it's trivial, but it's an important thing we need to do. It will open a season of blessing over this country. And so we really need to take this seriously, and we really need to address it. There's a need to apologize for the wrong that have been done to either majority group or minority group. And so I think we'll begin from the Civil War, and we'll do that. Everybody just turn to their neighbor that's from the eastern origin and just tell them on behalf of the nation that we are sorry, give them a gift, and you'll see the wonders that's going to happen to us even as a people.
I feel so touched hearing this from a Yoruba man going by your name. I really don't know how I feel about this. Thank you so much for having a national view. Thank you so much for the objectivity that you have shown. Thank you so much, especially for this last bits of contribution that you just made. I mean, if this, for a country that is already divided along the lines of religion, along the lines of tribe, it is very commendable that someone from another tribe, I have a young man in my contact list. He just keeps taunting and taunting, and each time I see it, it aches my heart. You know, as objective as I can be, it aches me. It aches me because I don't think there's anybody who would be happy to say, oh, your people are put on the line for crucifixion of any form, of any sort. And so I appreciate you for that view that you share. Thank you so much, Benga. I was about to round off the session before you dropped that bomb, but I can echo your voice to say that if you had access to power, if you were in power, you set aside a day for restitution, where anyone who has been wronged in any form can be kind to the particular set of people who have been wronged, can show them some kindness, can render apologies, and it cuts across different tribes who at different times have experienced any form of injustice. Whether we like it or not, it's a conversation we don't like having. I know that at some point within this series, we're going to be addressing that issue in particular. We have a topic that speaks to it, and then we'd also have people who feel very strongly about it, and those who also feel that it may not be in the best interest of the nation, Nigeria. The IPOB agenda may not be in the best interest of the nation. I'm hoping that at such a time, network won't have to disenfranchise them like it has done for Gloria. I really look forward to another section where Gloria would critically lend her voice. I believe she'll be able to do that. I'd bring that. Please feel free in the subsequent sessions to jump in at any point, even if we do not have you as a panelist for that particular one. I look forward to next Thursday. Thank you very much, everyone, for logging on to this interesting session. Would make it a time again next Thursday, 7 p.m., when we'll be discussing vote trading. The act of trading votes, paying for votes in volumes. We see a lot of info on the news, voters' cards being buried, voters card reg numbers being requested of NYSC COPS members. Some rural and some suburban areas, people are being promised huge amounts of naira just to share their registration, their voters card registration numbers. And so we'll be discussing that intently next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. same time. We'd hope to keep it brief. We'd also hope that our panelists would have a fair time speaking without any network interferences. A big thank you to Benga Oni this evening. Thank you, dear friend of mine. Thank you for lending your voice. Thank you for what you do, not just in Nigeria, not just for the youth, but in the African continent. Disappointedly again, I would express that Gloria wasn't able to express herself. Thank you, Gloria, if you're still on the call and if you're listening, and even if you're not on the call, thank you in absentia. Thank you to everyone who logged on tonight. Like we heard Benga say, there is a role for us all to play. He has shared a couple of solutions that we all can take up. I don't know what it is that you have heard, but like he said, this is something that everyone has a role to play. The government, the citizenry, everyone has a role to play. And on this note, I would say a good evening to everyone. Good night, and see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. on the seat as we discuss vote trading.